Hello, welcome. It's the 90-day website mastery podcast, the perfect companion to our 90-day website mastery program and our recently published book, Web Proud, available on Amazon. It's episode 56. We're excited to bring you even more valuable insights and practical advice to help you enhance your website's performance. Join us as we explore strategies to make your website work harder for you, reigniting your pride in your online presence. Pascal, hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. Listen, I've had a quick look at the show notes for today. I'm loving what we've done here by accident because, we do work separately in preparing our own notes and ideas. But it's going to be very much a content-focused episode, very practical, looking at different ways in which you can reconnect with the joy of content creation, but of course, making sure that this serves you well in terms of appealing to your customers. And nowadays, of course, Jonny, the AI overviews.
Let's get episode 56 going with You Ask, We Answer.
So this one is interesting, Jonny, because this is a question that I received via email, or could have been a LinkedIn message, from someone who came to the Notebook LM for website masterclass. So we did that in Leeds. It was absolutely a brilliant participation from everyone. And I'm going to read it out because actually, word for word, I think makes a lot of sense. And I hope I'm not going to put you on the spot, but this is what you and I love doing anyway, this idea of content repurposing. So here it goes. I've been a guest on a few podcasts, and during the masterclass and in a previous episode, you mentioned about repurposing the conversation into content for my website. Can you remind me how to do that? So what say you, Jonny Ross?
Yeah, this is what we do most weeks, to be fair, because we repurpose this podcast, and whether it's our own podcast or whether it's a podcast that I'm a guest on, there's so many things that you can do to repurpose that content. So, my typical workflow would be to take that podcast to perhaps get the transcript of that so that I've got, what was said and I've got reference points. And I can either take cuts of the video, I can take cuts of the audio, or I can take the actual transcript so I've got the actual copy. And those things are, they're so valuable that you can turn them into so many different things. So just as a starting point, you definitely need to be embedding this onto your website and say, look, I was a guest here. This is what I was saying, demonstrating that you were a thought leader, demonstrating your experience. But as a sort of starting point, you need to, perhaps write a blog, embed the audio, embed the video. But then you could, you could even have a section on your website where, appeared in, and that could be any PR you've had, any speaking opportunities that you've had, or any podcasts. But for me, it doesn't stop there. There's just so much you could turn that into, because it could easily turn into a LinkedIn article. It could turn into posts on Facebook or Instagram. It could turn into, you could cut it and create little shorts for YouTube. But yeah, as a really good starting point, it's, the basic here is get it on your website, embed it, embed the video, embed the audio, talk about it on there, and even consider, other service pages or products that actually would add some value by having that even on some of those pages.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. So I think you're right. Start by actually the easiest way to say, as it is, your host, I would imagine, would have published this on YouTube, on Spotify and other. So as it is, you can embed that and just essentially tell the story of being invited, share a bit of the key elements that you've done and so on. And that's kind of your first pass. And then what you can do then is what you described, which is kind of what I called to edit down. So that is to say, to create extracts that can be used, for different things. But then what I tend to do then, and what I tend to teach my customers, because repurposing suggests that you change sometimes the purpose of the content, not just format of the content. So you could, for example, realize that there was something that you shared that you had to do in a very succinct way, and you wish you had more time to expand. So what you can do, therefore, is almost write an article to say, listen, I was a guest, we had this exchange, and since then I've been thinking about it, and there's more that I want to kind of share with you. Sometimes what I tend to do with the edit up is to add the steps or the actions that you should be undertaking. So you and I could be a guest who could be explaining, for example, how to repurpose content, because we have to be sensible to the time we spend on the subject matter, we have to move on to the next thing. But actually, in a written form, you're absolutely right, or as an additional bit of video or podcast, you could say, by the way, I was explaining this bit. This is how you do it. These are the steps you can do it. You can create a checklist after this. You can create an infographic. You mentioned about extracts, and they could become pull quotes that could become a carousel on LinkedIn and so on. So the challenge in a way nowadays, because of the tech, it's so very easy to repurpose by editing up or down. There could be a sense of overwhelm. So what I would suggest people do is that they give themselves a goal of the essentials, and then maybe weekly you kind of go back to it and do something, because you could try and do all those things that we've listed, Jonny, in a day or in a morning. I think that's too much. And actually, by pacing yourself, you will come up with better ideas anyway. So I tend to give my client like a weekly target. Or in week 4, we'll do this version of repurposing, and in week 5, we'll do this version. And suddenly, for one 45-minute conversation, you could have 3 months worth of content by doing the editing down and editing up.
And that is exactly the point, that this isn't just content for this week by any means. In most cases, you can easily get 90 days out of it, or more. And so I love the idea of people thinking about not just editing, but editing down or editing up. Very clever. Now then, what I've realized is that this episode is also part of a mini series that we're doing a 4-parter, and let's find more out about that in Website Stories.
So as you alluded a moment ago, we started last time looking into the EEAT. So this stands for experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And that's from the Google search quality guidelines. Now, this was mentioned by you and I many a time, but we felt it was maybe time to go for something very, very clear. And as good luck would have it, the team behind Ahrefs, Mateusz, Makosiewicz, and Joshua Hardwick have written a really deep dive article into it. The link is in the show notes. And so what we've done really is using that as a source of inspiration. We're breaking down each of the letters, EEAT, into a 4-parter. So last time we looked at experience, and today we're going to be looking at expertise. And again, a massive thank you to Mateusz and Joshua from Ahrefs for almost starting this conversation. So, and the reason why we wanted to do this as well, everyone, is because actually, if you were to be put on the spot, what is the difference between experience and expertise? That's a tough one, really, because is it not quite the same? Is it not, Jonny, a potato moment there? And how do we use that? And frankly, how does Google use this? So for Matthew has done an amazing job. Imagine that you are a driver, a car driver, and you say, I have 30 years experience in driving a car. But actually, your expertise is the fact that you are a F1 car driver, that you've won 6 I would say tournament. That's not what they are. I can show my failing in terms of F1. There's 5 competitions, and you've been trained professionally by those individuals. So that's kind of the way. It's 2 sides of the same coin, but that's very much the difference. And when you think about expertise, the question a visitor could have when they go on your website is as follows. Does the professional, does the business owner have the skills, the knowledge, and the credentials, or they just got lucky and they've been playing with it for a while, which is kind of the experience. And you can't just go, yes, I do. By the way, you need to obviously expand. So, how do you do that? Well, it's all about credentials. It's about education. And it's about a proven track record. So many ways you can do that. So all of you, you know this now, your about us section has become so very important. And particularly if you're authoring the content on your website. So expand biographies beyond a couple of lines. Some of the organizations, Jonny, will have qualifications, or they'll be members of trade bodies and that kind of things. And I think out of maybe modesty or not knowing what to do, they're usually in the footer. And the argument by Mateusz and Google said, no, just make it very obvious, make it more visible, perhaps write about it, write about, what does that mean to be a member of this organization? That would be part of your expertise. Going for deep content, not superficial content, is very, very important. And you and I've explained this many a time. An FAQ, and a real one, a proper FAQ page on the website, makes it very, very important. And oddly, we mentioned this a moment ago, if you've been speaking publicly, make sure that you retell that event, that moment, onto your website as well. So you kind of begin to see the difference between experience and expertise. You could say experience is about maybe the longevity, how many times have you done this, but the expertise is a depth in which you can argue and demonstrate that is the case.
Yeah, and whilst you were talking, I was just making some notes, because one of the things that we're talking about here is not just the content that you're producing, but also the content that you've already got. And so the content that you've already got on service pages, on about pages, on product pages, how can you inject some of this EEAT? And today we're focusing on the second one, which is the expertise. How can you inject some of this into the content? And it's about being explicit. So, we have all this magic that goes on behind the scenes, but we don't always talk about it. And so we need to make sure that, for example, in a B2C environment, that if we've done some testing on the product, that we're talking about that. We need to bring the founder perhaps into the product as well, and talk about real customer scenarios, or the building trust, basically. So this product has been created by this person, and the sort of bio of that person, understanding about that person, and perhaps making sure that you've got like a really detailed, you absolutely should have a really detailed about page, but going deeper into the giving the founder a really clear voice, so that people understand the why of how the business has even got there. And finally, just another thing I wrote down was writing expert buying guides. So like being really helpful with the content, but going deep into sharing some real good expertise in terms of, if you're looking to buy this product, these are the things that you need to be thinking about. So yeah, we need to be explicit. That's what I'm finding myself saying a lot at the moment when we're talking about EEAT. It's about, making sure that the sort of all the obvious stuff that we know about. I was talking to a food manufacturer selling online, and they hadn't even considered, so that they have they've passed many food regulations, but in the content they don't really mention it a great deal, because for them that was what we had to do. Well, we couldn't create a yogurt until we'd done that. And yes, you might mention it somewhere on your website, but are you being explicit enough on all your pages?
Do you remember because that feels to me like, what we are saying is, this is what you would do face to face. If you were to have a conversation with a client who is interested generally about your business, about the why, about the how you do what you do. In a case of food, that could be something very important, about the provenance of your and the supply chain, all those things that is your day to day. Something that you and I use during the masterclass sometime, which is as follows: your ordinary is someone else's extraordinary. And the hardest thing for all of us in business is to try not to let modesty get in the way of good content and good communication, but also to get to the habit of what is bleeding obvious to you is actually probably one of the most important bit of information you should be sharing on your website. Because remember, the role of the website from the visitor's perspective is, are they worthy of my time, or shall I go and look elsewhere? So if you are implicit as opposed to explicit, as you heard Jonny say a moment ago, you may be losing out on very, very important interaction. Just very quickly, Mateusz and Joshua recommended a couple of things I thought was very interesting, because I have forgotten about those, if I've been honest. So as part of your content effort throughout the whole website, they were saying actually Google would pay attention as part of expertise to links to authoritative sources and original research to substantiate your claims. So if people are vouching for you, if you are, for example, Jonny, a member of an organization, and you have a page on that membership, kind of site, you should link to that page. So that's what we call citation in our SEO, GEO parlance. Obviously, oddly, if you are writing articles citing experts, methodologies and started quoting experts that you look up to. Is helping your expertise as well, which I thought was interesting, and something that you're a massive, massive fan of, Jonny, organizing your content into topical clusters.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you want to be seen as the expert, if you want to be found in AI visibility, then you need to create clusters around some very important topics that relate to your business. And so it is about the depth of content, and it's about making sure that we're continually using that EEAT framework. I like that we're doing this over the 4 episodes, giving it the breadth that it needs, and going into them. So we covered experience last week, expertise today, and then I assume in the next one we're doing authority and then trust.
We will indeed.
Thanks, Pascal. Let's move on to our next segment, the website engine room.
Now, in this segment of the show, Jonny and I surprise each other with a new discovery from the interweb, something that can make life easier as a content creator or website manager. What is your discovery, Jonny?
Well, I was looking on Etsy, as you do. And
I do not.
I like Etsy. I like a lot of the products on there. What do I find? I find that you can buy Canva templates. So you can, for a really small amount of money as well. So there's lots of social media and blog graphic templates, and even for certain sectors and certain industries as well. And we're talking, only a few pounds, few dollars. So my advice is, if you're looking to spruce up your social media presence, the look and the look and the feel of what's going on your social media, or even your blog graphics, have a look at Etsy, the shopping platform, and type in something like social media templates, and you'll find packs that you can literally download and upload into Canva with hundreds of different templates for just a few pounds or dollars. And that was my find, and highly recommend having a look at it.
Do you know what's interesting is, in a way, someone could say, well, why bother? Because Canva gives me all the templates. But you've got 2 issues. Sometimes there's overwhelm. And I yesterday was delivering a masterclass on video marketing and AI. And I didn't mention Canva, and I didn't mention the template and so on. But when people had a look, they went, oh, my goodness, there's a lot there. And in a way, sometimes it's a bit like when you go to a restaurant, the menu is vast and you can't make up your mind. Well, I think with Etsy, and you're right, the cost can't be that punitive. You make a decision to go for that family of of templates, and they become yours. And I've got a feeling that would work well for some people.
And you're absolutely right. It's a pack. And what was most interesting was that there's some different sectors and industries on there specific to potentially your business. And that was for me the really interesting bit, because what you don't find on Canva is things like that. And there's just sort of everything and anything on Canva, and you don't have that, what you've called family or pack. So yeah.
Thank you. So for myself, I'm forever on the quest for mobile phone app or laptop solutions that will help you edit video clips easily. It's been kind of for years and years and years, because for the vast majority of our customers, Jonny, they don't have the aspiration to be a film producer or videographer or video production company. They just need to get things done fast. Now, with mobile phones, people will know by now I'm a massive fan of Quick by GoPro. But I was very surprised to discover via a newsletter that Microsoft have relaunched their video editing software. It's now called ClipChamp, as in clip, video clip, and then champ, I'm guessing champion. And I had a quick look, and I love the simplicity. It's almost back to what we were saying a moment ago. There's not too many options to kind of get you to waste time. And I think that should be a strong contender if you want to add more video content, and you need to do the kind of repurposing that Jonny and I mentioned a moment ago, and you don't need all the bells and whistles of a pro kind of editing solution. And if you're very familiar already with Microsoft packages, it feels like to me it should be part of your toolkit. So that's ClipChamp by Microsoft.
Fabulous. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of tools, but sometimes, especially if you're in that Microsoft ecosystem, it does make sense to be using tools in that ecosystem. I find it with Google. I'm deeply immersed in Google, and it makes a lot of sense. Good find, Pascal.
Thank you.
Nice one. Let's take us to our final segment. We always finish with a call to action. Of course, you have to. Content has to have a call to action. Here's our call to action, the website call to action.
This is about the one change, the one adjustment you should be making right now to your website. Johnny Ross, what is your recommendation?
Well, when did you last have a look at your landing pages? I would suggest pick one key landing page where you're either hoping people land or you're paying for people to land. So perhaps it's a Google Ads campaign, a Facebook campaign, some type of email campaign. Where are you sending people to? Where are you hoping them where they land? And I want you to really stand back from that page and think, are we giving the right message? Does it look good? Are people arriving to it on mobile? What does it really look like on mobile? And are we making it easy to really understand what the offer is, what the product, what the service is, and why they should buy it? And are you talking in their language? So pick one high traffic page. Think about the layout, think about the headlines, think about the call to actions, and think about how you're going to, what we call, squeeze people into the funnel, the right people, talking, really understanding your ICP, your personas, the target audiences, and think about, what little optimizations can I make to that page that's ultimately going to increase the conversion rate. And it's amazing, by just doing a few tweaks on a page like that, the difference that you can make in terms of getting more phone calls, getting more contact form fills, or getting more emails, and ultimately turning that into customers or clients. So yeah, optimize a key landing page.
Thank you, Johnny. And what's interesting is I had this conversation with clients where what has happened is, they would put a lot of work into the website, all the pages, including the landing page. And therefore the landing page for launch, I would say, is functional. There's nothing there that is bad, but it's very, very functional. And I would say to them, give yourself a break now, because you've been working so hard on this website. Go back a 3 months later and walk in the shoes of a first-time visitor, and how does it feel, and get feedback from people. Use AI. You and I actually do this on the Notebook LM4 website masterclass, where we get a critique of some of those key pages, because you'd be quite surprised with some adjustments. But once you've done all that, I think the ultimate way to optimize is to have a welcome video, and to deal with what we call the fear of the unknown. And you and I tackle this a lot, don't we? We say, okay, so that, if there is one reason why people are not going ahead with whatever the request is on this page, is because actually deep down, they're still not sure what's going to happen when they do. And the best way to tackle that is to tell them. Now, if you're a bit camera shy, you can still write it. You can just listen. We understand, but ideally, a welcome message from you to explain what happens once they do go ahead. It's going to transform that landing page. So that's you're right, and that's the role of being the website manager, is to give yourself moments in time across the year to go and revisit, those key elements of the website.
Oh, so important. What's your call to action this week, Pascal?
Well, actually, this one was written before I received the question from our very good friend about repurposing and that kind of things. But for me, I want people to revisit their biographies, their about us sections, and so on and so forth, and actually go for long form storytelling. Now, we're going to hear very quickly people say, no, Pascal, we can't, because people don't like long form. I say, well, you don't know that. And if I may be as blunt, John, if you read We're Proud, the book that Jonny and I have co-authored, you'll know that there are some archetypes that do favor long form anyway. But I'm looking more for the AI overviews, because the more you tell your story, the more snippets AI overviews can borrow to present you in the best possible light. It's been absolutely fascinating to see the behavior of the AI mode on Google over the time. So my recommendation is actually, because this is harder to do than you might think, is to actually use your AI, your digital assistant, to interview you, literally. You're going to craft your prompt in such a way there's going to be an interview. You may want to do it over a number of sessions, so that the AI has your professional and career kind of journey, and then can start to put together two things: the short form, almost a too long did not read moment at the top of the About Us section, but then below would be your full journey that you can then supplement with lovely pictures and videos, but telling your story in full. That's what I'm doing next week with my web design agency. So, and I think it's enjoyable because you'll be surprised, all of you, how much you've done already that you're not telling the world.
Nice. Long form, definitely. I'm always thinking about AI visibility, and that's ticking a huge box. So yeah, I like that. Well, this was part of our mini series exploring the EEAT framework that Google has been talking about for quite a while, and this week was number 2, the expertise, and we'll be going into authority and trust in the next podcast coming up. But yeah, we also covered repurposing. I mean, so we spend all this time, these people that asked you that question, they will have been prepping, they'll have been panicking. Some of them haven't been on camera before, some of them haven't been on audio before. They'll have spent a lot of time preparing, thinking, watched us say. They'll put all that work in, they'll do the podcast or the audio, and then business will carry on and they'll move on to the next thing. Repurposing is so important because all of that work and energy that you've done can turn into so many things. And what you don't need to do is then think about you don't need to create all that energy again because you've already got it there, and it's about repurposing it. So we highly it's so important, isn't it? So valuable. Thanks, Pascal. It was we've covered lots again.
We did indeed. Yes, looking forward to the next one.
That is a wrap for episode 56 of the 90-Day Website Mastery Podcast, your audio companion to the 90-Day Website Mastery Program. For more information, visit 90daymarketingmastery.com, where you can book a discovery call with myself or Pascal. It's goodbye for now. Thanks if you were joining us live. Thanks if you were listening on the podcast, on the replay. However you joined us, we are delighted you were here, and let us know what you think. We'll see you all soon. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.